Hi, I'm Willem from EventR, and I'm going to be talking you through our app and coordinator hub for team logistics. So on the left-hand side of my screen, you can see the app, and on the right-hand side of my screen, you can see the coordinator hub. I'm going to talk you through the app first, and then the coordinator hub. So within the app, we're showing a demonstration of a race team that would be traveling to Bahrain for a race. This has all been set up already in advance. So this would be one of the people you've got with you, one of your team members, what they would see when they're heading for a race weekend. So as you can see, Bahrain race weekend and the dates in which the races are going on. We've then got a summary of what's happening whilst we're there. So we've got a link to the circuit, easily used for Google Maps. All the links that you find within the app will work offline as well, as long as you're linking through to Google Maps where you've already saved an offline. We then have a link to the website, and also any additional files you may need to be passed on to your team. For instance, a circuit, or actually a PDF of the entire summary of the weekend, which can be generated from the coordinator hub, which I will show you later. So that's your general information. Now let's get down to the day-to-day operation whilst you're there. So if we go to the itineraries page, this is a day-to-day summary of what we'll be doing. So on my first day, as you can see, I'll be getting a flight GF2 from London Heathrow to Bahrain. If I tap on here, I can see the people who will be on my flight with me. And I can also see personal information such as what food I have, a link to my boarding pass, and whatever other information you need to pass on. I can also chat to the people both on my flight and individually. So if I click on this chat button here, it links me through to a chat page with all the people from my flight. And I can also communicate directly with the individuals on my flight, for instance, to Alex. As you go down day to day, if it was, say, the Monday now, the flight on the 23rd, the Sunday, would be moved from the top and end up being in a hidden page behind. At the bottom of the page, you'd click See Past Events, so that information isn't lost, but it means it's not top of your view when you're logging onto it. So on the next day, I've arrived into Bahrain, and now I have my hotel where I'm arriving. So I have my check-in time, I have a link to the hotel. I also have other key information I need hidden behind. For instance, the people I'm sharing my room with, the room type, booking reference, and any other key information about the hotel. So this is my individual information. When I show you the team page later, you'll be able to see everybody that's staying in the hotel. On this page, I just see the people I'm sharing a room with. So I have a single, it will just be me on this. As we continue throughout the week, I have a finance meeting. If you can see here, this is actually a private meeting. So the only people who are going are myself twice. And as you can see, there's a little person up here showing that this is a private meeting so that no one else will see this. Not only can they not see this within the homepage and the team page, but actually the information never leaves the server. It's sorted beforehand, so they can't find the information within their local storage either. We then have transport. So for instance, the engineering bus taking us to and from the hotel. Again, with the list of people and any other key information needed, pick up, drop off time, and account. So if you know that there should be 13 of you on the bus and only 12 of you have turned up, you can quickly shoot a message out on the group chat to say, why are you running late? Really easy, really simple. As I talked about private activities earlier, you can also have public activities. So if you see FP3 here, this is set as a public activity. This means that everybody within the app has this information. And actually, if we invite guests to the app as well, they'll see this information. They don't get access to the team page I'll be showing you later, but they will have this as part of their itinerary. So that's most of the key sections within the app that I've shown you now on the itineraries page. Just a couple of last things to add is that although I'm talking about adding the editing within the coordinator hub, you can also do this from the app with this little button in the bottom right-hand corner. So I click on here, I can see all the different sections I have, and I can click on a flight, and I can actually go in and edit key information. In the top section, you can actually share your current location with the team, and you can also show what's going on in local time or in the time where you are currently. So I'm currently doing this video in the UK, which is about 5 hours behind Bahrain. So if I swap this over to UK time, you can see it's actually 3 hours behind Bahrain. You can see that my check-in is now 10 in UK time, whereas in Bahrain, it is 1 o'clock. Now, the chat page I showed you earlier, you can link through from the itineraries page, but there's also a specific chat page where I can connect and see my previous messages to people. The chat feature is a power feature. It's automatically included within EventR, but this can be turned on and off from the Coordinator Hub, both on a global level, but also on a user-specific level. So if you need your administrators to be able to chat and communicate with people, but you want your users not to be able to, you can set that within settings as well. Now onto our team page. So the team page is the real power feature within the app. And this is where you can see what's going on and who else is traveling with you. So within here, we've split our team members into engineers, designers, modelers. So if I go into the designers and have a look at Cuthbert, I can see what he's doing during the event weekend. So I can see which flights he's on, which accommodations he's staying in, and which activities he's doing. Now, this is when things have been set to team level. If things have been set to private level, I wouldn't be able to see this on his page. This is really useful if you're trying to organize a meeting with somebody, or whether you're meant to be sharing transport with people, means you know who you're going to be traveling with. As well on the team page, as instead of seeing just what you're doing, you see what the entire team's doing. So although I was only on 2 of the flights, I can see there's actually 8 flights flying, and maybe one of these flights would be working better for me than a different one. I could try and communicate with my team that actually I'd like to be on that flight instead, or seems flights are pre-booked in advance. This could be more difficult, but with things like transports, if you have a list of all the transports, you may see there's free spaces on certain buses that you may be able to move on to instead. Now, from within the app, you can invite team members, and you can set them to be traveling with you or making your own plans, and you can invite them by email specifically. Or if you're bringing together a group of people and you don't have all their emails, you can instead make a share link. This works a bit like sharing a Google Docs, where you send out a link and it links them to your organization, and you can either grant them or deny them access to your itinerary. So say you have a WhatsApp group ready for 30 people already set up, you can share it in there, and then they can join your organization as well. So that's most of the key information from the app. This is what the end user will see. Now I'll be going through the Coordinator Hub with you. So now I'm going to talk you through the Coordinator Hub. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that our itinerary is the Bahrain race weekend, and you can see the event information. So on the summary page, this is the information that goes there and what's going at the top of the page. We have the title, we have the time zone. This is going to be the time zone from where your event is. This will set the time zones throughout EventR, throughout your itinerary. You can reassess these in different areas. For instance, if you need to add someone to a hotel in the UK before they're flying to Bahrain, you can change the time zone for their hotel. Using our flight API, we actually pull the time zone data for you, so you don't need to worry about time zones on flights. But I will show you that when we get to flights. We then have the address. You can use our address lookup, or you can manually type in the address if you can't find it using address lookup, and you can actually link through to see whether or not you can find your address on Google Maps or Apple Maps to make sure you have the right one. This is then when you bring the people into your itinerary. So in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the members. I've actually set people up in groups, which I'll show you on the users page later. And this is how I'm bringing them into the itinerary, but you can also bring them in individuals. We have the website, we have the cover image that you can see at the top of the page. This could be anything. This could be your company logo. This could be a photo of your family. It could be whatever you decide you wanted to have it as. And then you have the additional files, which here I showed a racing demo and the Bahrain circuit. You could have other things such as team kit, lunch menu, seating plan. All of these could be included here if you needed them, or if they were activity specific, you could include them in the activity instead. Now, the PDF you can see I've included at the bottom has been generated from within the system, and that has been generated by pushing this Generate PDF button. And this gives us a summary of the entire weekend. So we can see the groups, the general information, and then if I scroll down, you can also see the transport for the week, the parking, the flights, etc. So if you needed to send to accounts or to people who weren't coming with you certain sections, say you had someone booking your hotels for you, you could plan it all out and send them just the hotel section over. Or if you have someone traveling with you who's not so competent on their app and decides they still need a paper version, you still have a paper version at hand you can print out for them. When generating new itineraries, we just click the new itinerary button. And we can start from scratch, like we would have done with the Bahrain, or we can copy existing itineraries. So say you go on the same trip every year, you can copy the trip from the year before, or say every weekend you're traveling, but you're traveling with the same people with the same structure, and all that's changing is the hotels and the flights. You can copy over all the information from the itinerary before and just change over the specific flight details and accommodation details. I cancel these changes. I'm going to go back to the Bahrain race weekend. So now I'm going to show you the flight section. So the flight section here, the first section I want to come to, this shows you my flights. This is the flight you saw earlier. We have the key flight details, the flight numbers. We have the visibility, so whether it was available to be seen by the whole team or privately just by the individuals traveling on it. We have the departures and the arrivals. Here we can add any extra details or documents needed. And then at a lower level, we can also include the people who are traveling on the flight and any documents they may need there. Now, if I show you how you create a new flight quickly, if we take a flight on the 25th and we use FR22, we can actually pull the flight data. And as long as the flight can be found, it will automatically pull the data from an API. This saves you time when entering information and makes sure that you're correct as possible. And then all you need to do is add the passenger information at the bottom. When entering the passenger information, if you had wanted to add everybody individually and add their booking cards, you could do it that way instead of as a group. A quick way of doing this would be you can copy the one from above and then just change the person who's attached. So if everyone needs the same baggage allowance and additional information, you can just quickly copy them over. These steps have been made to try and make it as quick as possible to generate new flights. Equally, if you're going on a return flight and you've already set up the flight there and everyone's traveling with you, you can copy the flight you were on, duplicate it, and just change the flight out to say the return flight on the way home. Replace the flight data, so as you can see, it's now flying on the 26th instead of the 22nd, and all the other key information would already be there about the people traveling. So that's the flight section. Now I'll talk you through the accommodation. So the accommodation works similarly to the flights. We have a list of the accommodation that's already there. We can duplicate or we can create new accommodation. The accommodations can be team or private. We add in the accommodation name, the type of the accommodation, and the address, any other key fields you may need. And then I strongly advise adding a default check-in and a default check-out time. This will be the time set to everybody by default, but you can actually override these fields down here. So here you can see I've attached Cuthbert and Jim Beam to a room on themselves, and they're going to be arriving on the 24th and leaving on the 3rd. They're actually matching the custom dates, and you can see that I have Derek Trotter and Herb Powell also in a double room who are on the default dates, so it's blurred out. Here, although it's on the default date, I can now edit this to say actually they need to be leaving on the 2nd. Because custom date has been selected, I can change theirs. Equally here, I can't. It's very easy to change. If I need to, just click on custom dates to change, flick it back off, and it'll go back to default dates. And then I'll take you through hire cars. So hire cars work per car. You have the car type, the provider you're getting it from. You can have it as team or private visibility again. We set up pickup dates and drop-off dates where you're taking it from, and then you can set drivers and you can also set passengers. Now, hire cars are really important because you can set these up as your driver for the week with your hire car, but they can also be attached to multiple people throughout this week in the transport page. So say you've got a hire car you're picking up on the Monday, but you have different people in the car every single day, that's fine. We can deal with that situation. So if I now show you transport, let's create a new transport. Let's take the hire car we saw earlier. Let's say car 2. We then have the key information here. All we need to add up is pick up and drop off times. So say I've got them traveling on the 24th to the 26th in this car, and I'm going to need myself in this car at the time. Okay, we're going to say Herb Powell is the driver of the car that day. We can add any key information they need here, such as documents, whether they need certain visas, whether they need their insurance paper. All of this can be added here and would be viewable within the app in offline mode. So this is how you kind of apply people to a hire car, but the transport section is very flexible. So not only can it be used for hire cars, but it can also be used for buses, taxis, ferries, trains, other vehicles. It's really a flexible section when traveling for somebody traveling from one destination to the next. So if we look at the activity section next, this is the most flexible section within the Coordinator Hub, and you can really use activities for anything general you need. This is where you have the private, team, and public settings. So say if you have a public itinerary you're going to be sharing with all your friends, you can set up at 8 a.m. we all need to be getting in a cab. At 9 a.m. we are going to arrive at the beach. At 10 a.m. we're going to go for a coffee. At 11 a.m. and you can set out your day's itineraries within the activity section, and you can connect your transport and your accommodation to it. You could put all these public, but say at 5 p.m. you're going for a private dinner, just the 4 of you. You could set this to private, which means that other people within the app can see this as your team. So if I show you what I mean by this, I can set a new activity and I could have it as family dinner. I can set a location. I can set it to private. I can give it a start time and an optional end time. And then I can also add any key additional information that's needed, any key documents such as seating plans, and I can add the people who are going to be going. Throughout the app, everything has a costing to it. So you can add costing to every section. So if an activity is going to have a cost, you can add it there. If a flight's going to have a cost, you can add it there. And there's a summary of this that you can find within the app. The final section to show you is parking. This works by adding the car park and then the cars you specifically need to that car park. For instance, if I'm arriving at London Heathrow and I need this car, which is going to be driven by John Smith, and he's dropping up, as passengers, he has William, and John. You can, again, here include the number plate, booking reference, and any key documents they need for the parking. Now, the real power section, as we see it within the Coordinator Hub, is the planner. And this is your summary section for everything. So if I turn off transport, we have now a summary of the entire race weekend. I can make this big and I can have a sidebar. So for instance, if I'm looking at what Willem's doing, I can see that he's on this flight. I can see he's part of the parking. And let's say I want to see who else is in this hotel at this time with him. I can click on here and it will show me a list of the people there. Now let's say I decide Anakin Skywalker should be there with them. I can click on here and I can jump to the booking and I can add an extra person to it. When you click on a section, the planner shows you a summary of what you're looking at. So start time, the flight, and what departments the people are within. You can even edit the look of the planner. So you can have the angle at the top as a different one. We're going to do that one, maybe that one. You might decide you prefer the vertical view. You might decide you want everything extra small so you can fit more on the page. There's lots of different options you have in here. Awesome. So that's all the sections within the app. I'm now going to show you the users page. So the users page is your collection of all the users in the organization. So when someone's added to the organization, they're added here, but they're not necessarily added to the itineraries until you choose to add them to it. So say you have 100 people in your organization, but only 30 of them go to every itinerary you're going on or every race weekend. You can do a bulk import of all your users at the start and then just add them to the race weekend itineraries that they're going on. We do this one of two ways. We can either manually add them one by one, or you can upload a CSV following the downloaded template from here. Once you've built this CSV, if you then add more people in the future, you can re-download this CSV and it will track the changes in the CSV so that the new people will be added for you. If we look at the permissions on the side, you can see that most people are users. If I look for me specifically, you can see that I am an admin. This means I have access to the coordinator hub. You can edit these permissions for people. So if we go on here, I can edit these permissions and you can add people as users. You can also add them as guests and as admins. So guest means that I would have access to my itinerary and everything that's public. So anything I'd been attached to or anything that's public, but I would have no access to the chat or team page. So if you had a guest that was joining as part of your team just for a weekend and you needed to add their information but didn't want them to see the rest of your team's information, this is how you do it. Now, the real power features in the back office come from the admin section. And this is where we can kind of do settings within the app. So I can disable editing in app so that only admins can do it, so nobody can do it. You can disable chat. You can change the name formatting within the PDF. And we can add permissions to users. So as I told you about the guests and the admins and the users, say you want to create a new role for somebody who has editing rights only for one specific itinerary, you can do that within here and you can add those users to these itineraries. So that's a summary of the EventR app and Coordinator Hub. I really hope that helps you. If you have any questions in the future, please feel free to get in contact with me or anyone from the EventR team.